WBCB presents Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Enough is enough, and it's time for a change!
I can't believe I'm putting my voice to this.
Call in with a question or comment at 215-949-3232 or 888-922-2149.
Thank you for your irrelevant opinion.
And now, here's your host of Pro Wrestling Weekly, Fearon.
The first thing you need to do is to tell these people to shut up if you want to hear what I got to say. I'm a broadcast journalist. I have a right to my opinion.
Oh, son of a...
I am the best on this microphone, in that ring, even at commentary.
There's the sound of the bell, and we are set to go. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon here with you. Here with all of my friends. That's right, I am flying completely solo here. Well, okay, that's not totally true. I've got Ted Efaw is here in studio working on some stuff in the back in production, so I'm not totally here by myself. But no Serena this week, no Lucas this week. Well, Lucas conspicuous by his absence. We'll actually get into that right off the bat here. He's at the Monster Factory preparing for tonight's huge show, along with attending a seminar this afternoon with TNA superstar The Monster Abyss. No pun intended. Also, a huge show tonight, as I said. It's at 541 Mantua Avenue in Paulsboro, New Jersey. The doors open at 6. The action starts at 7, and a lot of action there will be. The show will kick off with War facing Anthony Bennett in the Factory's first ever ladder match for the Supersonic Championship. Also in tag team action, Real Life Heels, the team of Luis Martinez and QT Marshall. They defend their Monster Factory tag team titles against the Exer Guys. Also, former UFC fighter Matthew Riddle takes on former WWE superstar Cliff Compton in a street fight. And the main event is a triple threat match for the Monster Factory Heavyweight Championship as Nick Camarado defends against former champion Clutch Adams and TNA superstar The Monster Abyss. It all goes down tonight at the Monster Factory, 541 Mantua Avenue in Paulsboro, New Jersey. Front row tickets, well, were $20, but they are sold out, as I found out just before getting on the air here. But there are still general admission tickets for $15. You can check out more information at monsterfactory.org. Plus, you can check out past shows on the new Monster Factory Network at themfnetwork.com. That's right, taking a page from WWE, and there is now a Monster Factory Network. So, no Lucas, although he did give me his predictions for tomorrow's TLC pay-per-view, which we'll get into a little bit later, and in typical Lucas fashion, he sent it to me via text at 12:04, just before I'm hopping on the air here. Thanks, Lucas. He'll make fun of me for that next week, I'm sure. There'll be some back-and-forth banter or whatnot, but maybe it's better late than never, as he's going to need a late surge here to outpick me for the year, as he's trailing by just one match heading into this last pay-per-view. But we'll get more into that coming up in the third segment. Full show today, as high school basketball doesn't come your way until about 1:15 this afternoon, so we're here for the full hour with a litany of things to talk about after being off the air last week. Just to name a few, security is still beefed up at WWE events. Something to note for if you're going to Raw in Philly this coming Monday, so I'll tell you about that. A former TNA champion going under the knife. Also, the lineup for the network London Special has been announced. I'll give you a little preview into that. My take on the new Stone Cold special and whether or not it's a good idea. Also, Mr. Foley's baby boy hired by WWE. Notice that was a slight slip of the tongue there. Mr. Foley's baby boy. An ECW original passing away. And a WWE Hall of Famer's Twitter account hacked. All that plus a whole bunch more. But first, let me get into Raw from this past Monday, which was comedy, and more comedy. Or if you ask Team Bad or Team BAD, it's more like comedy. because of their silly Unity thing that they've got going on, which that's the only time you're going to hear me go that high pitched, and I shouldn't have even done it then. I may have to edit that in post-production. We'll find out about that. But between that, the fact that Naomi, who is legitimately married to one of the Uso brothers, is dancing in the ring with one of the New Day's opponents in, of course, sorry, let me rephrase that. Naomi married to the Uso brothers, who are one of New Day's opponents, but Naomi dancing in there with the New Day. Getting all kinds of backwards here. The medicine's definitely kicking in. What can I say? Plus, you've got Miz TV, where with Charlotte and Ric Flair, along with surprise guest Paige, and everybody's getting booed in that one because you're not really sure who to cheer for. And then, of course, there's the the final segment with Roman Reigns and Sheamus setting up their WWE World Heavyweight title match for tomorrow night, although at the time it would have been this Sunday because it was this past Monday. After Sheamus opted to come to the ramp but not to the ring, Reigns, all I can do is shake my head at this. He giving the quote of, "I thought Irishmen had potatoes, but it looks like you're just smuggling some tater tots." This line sounds like it was written for John Cena. I guess probably because I'm thinking of, was it WrestleMania 20 where he gave the rap about Big Show smuggling plums or something like that? I don't know. Old becomes new again, I guess, in this case. But since Cena isn't around, I guess Reigns was given the line, and it sounds like something that's right up Vince McMahon's alley because you've got cultural insensitivity and genital humor. Brilliant. Okay, not really. Yeah, I'm surprised that Sheamus didn't come back with, "I thought Samoans all had hard heads," because, that's also another Vince McMahonism that's been thrown out there for years. Ugh. Plus, Roman Reigns using the term son as often as he did, it didn't exactly work. It makes him sound like not a nice person, which isn't really what you want from someone who's supposed to be likable, right? I mean, you would think. I know. It's crazy talk, I guess, on my part. But what do I know? I just call things like I see them, as a broadcast journalist does. So we've got the pay-per-view this Sunday. We've got news and notes. We've got room for your feedback as well via the phones as well as over the interwebs or internets or however you want to look at it. The phone number, of course, 215-949-3232 or toll free at 888-922-2149. Those are the ways to get into the various action here. And also on the Facebook fan page, WBCB Pro Wrestling Weekly, where you can chime in your thoughts, that's right. One of the things that I forgot, speaking of Sheamus, he's taking his tater tots to the big screen. That's right. The trailer released this past week, this past Thursday, in fact, a couple of days ago, for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 movie, where Sheamus is playing Rocksteady, one of the henchmen from the Foot Clan, which I know is bringing me back to my childhood a little bit, because in the late 80s for me, watching the animated version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, how could you forget that that lovably dumb pairing of the Rhino and Warthog that were Rocksteady and Bebop. Okay, maybe I am alone on that. I don't know. But thank you, John from Northeast Philly, for putting that up on the fan page. He said, "And here's the trailer, fellas. I can just see the promotional work now during TLC and Raw, considering Sheamus is kind of starring in it." Well, why not? I mean, they only have the 7 matches advertised, and I don't think any of them was announced yet as a pre-show match. So whether they're going to have something unadvertised or whether they're going to take one of the 7, I don't know. But I guess some of the matches that you'd consider pre-show, I hate to say filler, but that's kind of what it comes across as. You kind of need to balance between the gimmick matches of the TLC pay-per-view, because you have a TLC match, you have a tables match, you have a chairs match, and you have a ladders match, and that's 4 of your 7 matches. So you'll need things in between, in theory, to split up the varying gimmicks. So I think Joseph at least sharing at least some of my opinions from Monday night. Asking what kind of overbooked garbage is this? It started out promising and then quickly turned terrible. And I'm editing for broadcast clarity because there are some words in here that I can't use. Rhino, yawn. I was stupid enough to think we would see the Wyatts against the League of Nations denied. Of course, he's referring to the opening of Raw where you saw the League of Nations out kind of gloating, promoting themselves, and all of a sudden the lights go out and in comes the Wyatt family. And even though they're both factions who you're supposed to not like, the fact that it was something different, the fact that you'd not expect to see those two go against each other, it kind of piqued a lot of people's interest. And then you, like with a lot of things with WWE, you didn't want more, but you got it anyway. Next thing you know, Team Extreme comes out. No, not the Hardys and Lita. The Dudley Boys and Tommy Dreamer. And announcing that apparently when you're extreme, you don't die, you multiply. Kind of like Bebe's kids in 92. Yeah, there we go. Let that one soak in for a minute. Bet you haven't heard that reference in a while. But next thing you know, Rhino comes out, as Joseph mentioned on the Facebook fan page. And then, just as you think there couldn't be any possibly more, Roman Reigns' music hits. And Reigns, Ambrose, and the Usos make their way to the ring from the crowd. Cue a 16-man brawl going to commercial that ends up organizing itself into a 16-man four-way tag team elimination match. That's a mouthful. Which ended up getting won by 2/3 of the Shield and the Usos in a little over 20 minutes. So that, I guess you could say was, it was interesting in that it was different. Oh, as things are coming in minute by minute here, John from Northeast Philly saying, those jokes certainly rained on the ratings parade. Boo. Okay, apparently it's contagious. I thought it was just me, but apparently not. Speaking of the ratings, yeah, it's not looking good. That's one of the stories I was going to talk about. While WWE World Heavyweight Champion Sheamus is toting a T-shirt reading Sheamus 515, a shirt that probably won't be hitting the printing press ever is Raw 215. That's right. This past Monday's Raw had a 2.15 rating, down from the 2.21 rating last week. The average fan viewership is just over 3 million, but down over 100,000 people from last week. I'm sure you're thinking, the usual excuses of ratings are always down during football season. Yeah, they could apply. I mean, the Monday Night Football game between Dallas and Washington drew over 14 million viewers. Speaking of that, and I know I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here, but speaking of the Washington football team, I guess that's probably why we haven't seen too many Native American characters in wrestling, not really since Tatanka, because I wonder what their stance would be on this whole thing with the Washington football team. I don't know. Maybe I get Chief Jay Strongbow on the horn about that, or Tatanka, or... Okay, I don't know. It just something that kind of crossed my mind. Anyway, compared to a year ago, now this is interesting, ratings for Raw are down a half point. 2.15 for this past Monday versus 2.66 on December 8th, 2014. That's right, a half point rating, which doesn't seem like a lot, but you figure that when Raw was at its absolute highest viewership during the Attitude Era in 98, 99 into 2000, you would see ratings in the 6, sometimes 7 range, but usually in that 6 range. And now it's a third of that some 15 years later. And again, compared to last year, the viewership is down almost 650,000 viewers. That's right, 3.054 million this week versus 3.7 million viewers at this time last year. So WWE, whether or not they want to admit it, and even though they kind of have without admitting it, they're in a little bit of trouble. And they're at least throwing something different out there to try to garner some interest. But I have this strange hunch, and some of the memes on the interwebs have kind of shown that like WCW in the early 2000s, they're looking for some sort of a quick fix to turn things around immediately, and it's just not there. The quick fix isn't really there. I don't know what else to say about it. It's something where you need to show patience, dedication to a litany of storylines, not just one, and not just kind of go for the surprise factor of, oh, who's going to show up this week? It worked for a while for WCW, but when you're seeing nostalgia acts of the Dudleys come back, Tommy Dreamer, and for a lot of people, Rhino seemed like a disappointment, and WWE even put a poll up on their page, WWE.com, asking what other ECW original you'd like to see come back. And this jumped out at me because one of the people who was in the mix is a good friend of mine, the Blue Meanie. And he, of course, he was kind of getting some pub to vote for himself on that. And why not? I mean, it's all just for fun. Maybe they'll reach out to him. Who knows? Maybe we'll see Blue Meanie this coming Monday on Raw, since Raw happens to be in Philadelphia. I don't know. It's a thought. Now, last I checked, the leader of said vote was, I believe, Rob Van Dam, but I'm going to look that up as I'm talking here because I'm kind of doing things solo. You know what? Actually, I'll take care of that during a timeout because we're rapidly on that pace, getting reused to pacing for an hour as opposed to the 45-minute shows that have come up over the course of the last couple of weeks, or in last week's case, preemption. So I'll give that a look. I'll give you the results of that poll, at least for the moment, coming up on the other side, as well as a litany of news and notes. Plus, there's still the predictions certain to go wrong for TLC tomorrow, and a litany of birthdays for today. Plus, today in wrestling history as well. Still a lot to do. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
And now, more Pro Wrestling Weekly with your host, Fearon Derry.
Thank you, Sean Lerman. Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon Derry here with you, flying solo. And hopefully not into, I don't know, a brick wall, as Mark K. Fabe mentioned a while ago. So prior to the break, I had mentioned the WWE.com poll. Which other ECW original would you like to see return to WWE? Here were the names that were listed. There was Spike Dudley, Rob Van Dam, Justin Credible, Steve Corino, New Jack, Nova, Sabu, the Blue Meanie, the Sandman, Mikey Whipwreck, Raven, and other specify in the comments section below. Now, I tried my best to vote for my good buddy, the Blue Meanie, and let's just say that the rest of the WWE Universe doesn't quite agree with my sentiment, as Meanie has only 3% of the vote, which is better than a few of the others. Poor Nova. Nova has 0% of the vote. But Mikey Whipwreck in there with 1%, Other in there with 2%, and I've got a little bit of hilarity to go on with that based on some of the comments that I've seen. Meanie and New Jack in there with 3%. Justin Credible and Steve Corino, they each have 1%, but some of the higher names along the list there. The Sandman with 10%. Spike Dudley with 14%. That'd be interesting considering Bubba Ray and Devon are back. Sabu with 15%. Raven with 14%. But the far and away leader in the clubhouse, Rob Van Dam with 36% of the vote. Something tells me, though, that with their herbal policy in place, something tells me that Van Dam won't necessarily be coming back. But I think it'd be fairly likely, although, I mean, who knows with WWE anymore. It would make sense with WWE being in Philly for Raw this Monday. Blue Meanie happens to be in Philadelphia. I'm just saying, it wouldn't be a dumb idea, WWE. Although one of the things that I considered to be a very dumb idea, some of the comments in the other section on this vote, there was one person who was showing some love to the franchise, Shane Douglas, which I know they say never in professional wrestling, but that's about as close to never as you're going to get. The bad blood between WWE and Shane Douglas goes back a couple of decades now to the brief Dean Douglas days of the franchise. So I don't really think we're going to be seeing that. But what had me, every time I see this, I just want to bang my head against the console here, for lack of a better term, or I guess head desk. Is that what the internet people say nowadays? There were people who were commenting for that lovable ECW original Goldberg. Ow. Yes, Goldberg was one of the people mentioned. Some people should, not be on the internet, that's for sure. And then there were some other mentions. Tajiri, Lance Storm, Stevie Richards was another good one that wasn't listed but was mentioned. I don't know. I'm still shooting for the meanie, but we'll see. I mean, this is all just a fan hearsay. Maybe WWE is going to do something with it, or maybe they're just looking for content for their website. Or since Joey Styles has a lot to do with the web portion of WWE, maybe this is one of his curious concoctions. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Joey Styles is a good guy. Had the chance to talk to him a little while ago at the last Sign-A-Mania. I wanted to get him on the air, but due to his contractual agreements, he unfortunately was unable to. But he still showed a lot of love for the show, and it's greatly appreciated if you're listening up there in Stamford, Joey. Certainly appreciated. All right, let's get to some news and notes here. Speaking of Raw this Monday, in the fallout of the alleged threats from ISIS on the Survivor Series pay-per-view, WWE events are still showing heightened levels of security. This is something to keep in mind if you're going down to Raw this Monday at the Wells Fargo Center in Philly. All bags will be checked. Anyone with a large purse or backpack should plan on emptying all contents into a clear bag and then return your own bag to your car so there'll be no question what you'll be bringing into the venue. There's also expected to be pat-downs and metal detector wandings prior to entering the arena, so plan to arrive early so you don't miss any of the action. Yeah, and can you blame them? You know, when that story broke, I'm sure there were a lot of people going, I don't know if I want to go to this pay-per-view now. But even in the aftermath of it, even though, it's hard to say. I guess with Philadelphia being a large city and WWE being in Philly, you can understand why they'd want to take some sort of precautions. At least that's my guess. Also, in some TNA news, we're just jumping all over the map today here. Nick Aldis, who wrestled in TNA as Magnus, wrote that he underwent surgery last week. He tweeted, quote, I had surgery to repair a torn bicep tendon that I injured in Mexico 10 days ago. Apologies to the promotions I've had to cancel for. I'm aiming to rehab ASAP and will keep you posted on my return to action, end quote. Aldis has been working with Jeff Jarrett's Global Force Wrestling since leaving TNA back in the summer and won a tournament in the end of October to become their first GFW Global Champion. A little more GFW news coming up in the hour here, which is already almost half over. The time just flies on by. So many different things going on, including on the heels of the pay-per-view coming up tomorrow, another a network special. And yes, I know I keep calling it pay-per-view, but it's a network exclusive, but it just doesn't roll off the tongue the same way. Plus, I've had pay-per-view ingrained in my brain since watching wrestling initially almost 23 years ago now. Holy smokes. Where the heck's the time gone? All right, the less I think about that, the better. But something you do want to think about, the NXT special coming this Wednesday afternoon. That's right, because it's going to be on the WWE Network in London, England, at the SSE Arena. They'll be hosting NXT TakeOver London, and it'll be airing live on the WWE Network this Wednesday, December 16th at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's right. Matches advertised for the special include Apollo Crews against Baron Corbin, Asuka facing Emma, Dash Wilder, and Scott Dawson against Enzo and Colin Cassidy for the NXT tag titles. Hopefully that won't be SAWFT soft. And the main event features Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe for the NXT Championship. That should be a lot of fun. Oh, yes. And this is something I've been looking to give my take on for a little bit since they advertised it a couple of weeks ago. WWE is taking a different approach with their Stone Cold podcasts on the WWE Network. Instead of having the specials air on Mondays on the WWE Network following Raw, Austin's next podcast special featuring Shawn Michaels will air tomorrow night at 11 p.m. Eastern following the TLC pay-per-view. Now, this means with the pre-show, the pay-per-view event itself, which, yes, it's a network exclusive, but I'm still calling it a pay-per-view, and the podcast following TLC, that's 5 straight hours to commit on a Sunday night, a challenge for even the most diehard of fans. Hell, you can barely get me to sit here for an hour, let alone, and I'm doing the talk show here, let alone being able to sit in front of a TV and watch wrestling nonstop for 5 hours. I don't know. Maybe it's my maybe I need more medicine to kick in or something. You got me on that one. Also, a little bit of I don't know. I hate bringing bad news into the mix, and I hate sounding like a Donnie Downer or a Debbie Downer. Well, no, I guess a Donnie Downer. I don't know. I just make things up as I go along. So you know what I'll do? I'll save that bit of news for the other side, and we'll go ahead and go to the phones, and we'll bring up Ed from Northeast Philly. Ed, welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Good afternoon.
What's going on, Ed?
ROH Final Battle is next Saturday, Friday and Saturday. I think 2300 Arena.
Oh, they're doing 2 shows for that.
Jay Lethal and AJ Styles is the main event.
That should be huge.
I think that might be the Friday show. I'm not sure.
They could do it both. Well, they could do it either night, and it would certainly be good. But yeah, I need to. I know I've said this probably for ages now. I feel like I need to do a little bit more regarding Ring of Honor, and I don't know. Maybe that opportunity will come as a couple of people with whom I've befriended via the Monster Factory are now making their way into Ring of Honor, such as Shaheem Ali and Tim Good News Hughes, just to name a couple. So who knows? Who knows what will happen down the road here? I have no idea how things are. Well, nobody knows what the future is going to be, but I have no idea what the future of this show is going to be. There's been a lot of changes here at WBCB as of late, and they're all good changes, but I don't know what changes are going to occur with me. I'll leave it at that.
CCW has its full show this afternoon.
Oh yeah, that's I saw Matt Tremont posting about that.
At the Florida Skate Zone in Voorhees.
Over in Voorhees, I know. I hate when they run concurrent with well, I mean that's a problem. Well, it's a good problem to have that you have so many good wrestling organizations in this area in the tri-state area here of Philly, New York, Jersey, that there are so many things going on, and unfortunately, some of those things run on the same night. There are so many great organizations and so few weekends to run. There are only 52 of them a year that sometimes you're going to run into some overlap, and unfortunately tonight's one of those cases.
And the TLC pay-per-view party in Scranton at Backbreakers Training Center.
Ooh, Scranton, that's a little bit of a hike. By the time I got home, the sun would be coming up. No, well, I guess that depends on what time I finish after the pay-per-view, but that's a whole nother story. Well, see, if you're watching the podcast after the pay-per-view, then, I mean, that wouldn't finish until midnight, and then you'd have to drive home from Scranton. I wouldn't get home until 3 in the morning.
Anyway, Northeast Philly has one in January, like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, at Mixed Roast Beef.
Oh, yes, the viewing party for the Royal Rumble with featuring Lex Luger. I believe Matty Mill Events is doing that. Yeah, I think it's MATYMIL. Yeah, look that up on the Google to get all the information, just because I don't have that directly in front of me, and I don't want to get it incorrect.
Happy belated birthday to Sonny.
Oh, I was going to say, we're going early with the...
Birthday!
Apparently. No, there are a litany of them for today. December 12th is a very popular day to be born, apparently, for some reason. I wonder, would that be, I guess, 9 months after Valentine's Day? I'm, trying to do the math and count on my fingers here. I guess 40 weeks from Valentine's Day would be right around this time, so... I guess a lot of Valentine lovebirds in the air and causing a lot of blossoms here in this part of December.
Raw in Philly.
Yeah, well, of course, Raw in Philly this Monday. That should be interesting to say the least. The fallout of the pay-per-view tomorrow night.
And SmackDown is in Jersey, Newark.
Newark, Jersey. Yeah, the Prudential Center, since the Izod Center is not hosting events anymore. But I still have my memories from WrestleMania Access a couple of years ago.
That's about it.
All righty. Look at the local scene, courtesy of Ed from Northeast Philly. Always appreciate it. Thank you so much for the call. Looking back on the Facebook fan page, the Facebook feed pack, John from Northeast Philly referring to the ratings. If they, referring to WWE, lose 1 million viewers, there will be some serious moves to be made. Heads will certainly roll. You would think that ratings would be up with Cena off air. Shows the hypocritical nature of fans. They claim they won't watch with Cena on camera, and now he's off for a bit, and viewership is down. Well, when you're rolling out there with Unity, not going high pitch again, and Tater Tots, just to name a couple of things, what do you expect? I mean, I was one of those 3-point-some-odd million viewers, but that didn't mean that it wasn't torturous. I almost feel like a common Monday night staple will be making sure that I have a growler of some brew from the Broken Goblet Brewery, which I'll tell you more about them coming up in just a moment here. That would have been a great segue if I wanted to do that, but I never know where I'm going to go with the show. I know that I'm going to go there in a moment, but that's something that jumps out at me. Anyway, coming up, we got to talk still about Mr. Foley's baby boy hired by WWE, an ECW original who passed away. Some unfortunate news there. I thought that Ed might get into it, so I wasn't. I was going to save that for him. And a WWE Hall of Famer's Twitter account that was hacked. Plus that Global Force Wrestling announcement, just to name a few things, but 12:39, you know what time it is. Got to tell you about my favorite beer spot, the Broken Goblet Brewery, 1500 Grundy's Lane in Bristol. Broken Goblet Brewing, breaking your perspective on how you experience craft beer, because broken can be beautiful. Now today, to get into the holiday spirit, the Goblet is cracking open a special firkin at 2 o'clock this afternoon. It's their oatmeal stout brewed with peppermint and white chocolate. Now, I had the chance to have a little bit of it at a event that, oddly enough, was going on, which you may have heard a little bit of it in the background this past Thursday evening during the St. Mary Medical Center Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA. Wow, I didn't think I was going to get all that. But yes, with Merrill Reese up at Chickies and Pete's in Warrington, there was a special craft brewery event that was going on along with an ugly sweater competition, and they had the aforementioned firkin available for that event, so I got to hang out with a couple of the owners, Mike and Bubba from the Broken Goblet, as well as some owners of some other local breweries in the area, and got to try quite a few fun libations, to say the least. It was a good time. So I can tell you from personal experience, having had the oatmeal stout with peppermint and white chocolate, it's definitely something you want to check out, and that's going on starting at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Also, there's a disturbance in the Force. Yes, a disturbance in the Force. Starting this Wednesday, not just because of the new Star Wars movie coming out, but because of the new Taproom Imperial Stout called A Disturbance in the Force. Plus, next Saturday, the adventure continues as the second bottle of 15 in the Lonely Mountain series will be released. Nori, a 10% Belgian triple brewed with lavender. Yeah, they do some crazy stuff over there at the Goblet, but it's all delicious. Definitely got to check it out. Open Wednesdays through Sundays. It's always a good time at the Broken Goblet Brewery, 1500 Grundy's Lane in Bristol, PA. Check them out on the web at brokengoblet.com. That's Broken Goblet Brewing, the semi-official brewery of Pro Wrestling Weekly. Still a ton to get into here, and we've got it all coming your way. Plus, my predictions starting to go wrong for the tables, ladders, and chairs. Oh, my. All coming up here on Pro Wrestling Weekly on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
Pro Wrestling Weekly presents Today in Wrestling History, December 12. On this date in 1989, the WWF taped its No Holds Barred The Match the Movie pay-per-view. In the main event, Brutus Beefcake and Hulk Hogan defeated Randy Savage and Zeus in a tag team steel cage match. On this date in 1999, the WWF held its Armageddon pay-per-view. In the main event, Triple H defeated Vince McMahon in a no-holds-barred match. On this date in 2004, WWE held its Armageddon pay-per-view. In the main event, John Bradshaw Layfield defeated Booker T, Eddie Guerrero, and The Undertaker in a fatal four-way match to retain the WWE Championship. On this date in 2011, WWE Monday Night Raw aired live from Norfolk, Virginia. In the main event, John Cena fought Mark Henry to a no contest. This has been Today in Wrestling History, December 12.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon Derry here with you, flying solo. No Serena in the house this week, and Lucas is down at the Monster Factory. I'll be joining him a little bit later this evening for the awesome show that'll be going on tonight. Told you about that a little bit earlier, and yeah, of note, the Monster Abyss is going to be there. I'll just leave it at that because still a ton to get into here. First, some not-so-good news because I never know when the hell to put it in here. Donald Haviland, who wrestled in ECW as the Shaw Hack Myers, he died last Saturday at the age of 41. He had underwent brain surgery in Baltimore and died from complications of the surgery. Now, Myers was a popular ECW undercard act, and one of the characters who jumps to memory when I think back to my introduction to ECW as a teenager in the mid-90s. The fan reaction to his punches or kicks were a precursor to the common fan practice today of yelling yeah when the good guy delivers a punch and boo when the bad guy retaliates. Only back then the crowd would yell Shaw when Myers delivered a hit, and, well, another four-letter word that starts with the same first two letters that I can't say on radio, when the opponents would return fire. Yeah, I think you pretty much can figure it out from there. Kind of in the same way that Austin, when he said, if you put the letter S in front of Hitman, you have my exact opinion of Bret Hart back in 97. Because it all goes back to 97, as we know. Also some, well, not so good news with a good ending, at least. WWE Hall of Fame broadcaster Jim Ross had a bit of shocking news this past week as he wrote in his blog, quote, "Someone hacked my Twitter account at JR's Barbecue early Sunday morning and then let the world know that I was dead." Well, I'm not, but I am pissed, and this matter isn't over, but we do hope to have our account back up and running today thanks to the efforts of the folks at Twitter. Karma is a crazy thing, and somewhere down the road, whoever did this and facilitated an emotional day for my family and friends will have to answer to their misdeeds. So, for those who may have heard about the potential death hoax of Jim Ross, not true. JR is alive and well, and by God, we hope that he will be for a long time to call many more slobber knockers wherever they may be. All right, did I get all of the JR-isms out of the way? Well, if not, I'm sure I'll be broken in half at some point. Also, actually, here's one. Mr. Foley's baby boy, hired by WWE. Mick Foley confirming via his Facebook page that his son, Dewey Foley, was hired to work for WWE. He posted, quote, "My son was hired 2 months ago by WWE Creative and will begin working with the company in January. He would have started earlier, but he and I both felt it was important for him to fulfill the commitment he made to the college that employed him as the director of a residence hall. He could have merely explained that this was his dream job and possibly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but he chose to stay because it was the right thing, and because I told him that deep down, Mr. McMahon would respect him as a man of his word. My son was not given the job because of his last name. He earned it. He earned it by working for hundreds of hours in solitude with no compensation to prove his writing skills and mind for the business. There are no piece-of-cake jobs in WWE. As ESPN's Jonathan Coachman said of his time with WWE, you're expected to bring it every day. My son will do his best to bring it every day. He'll be working long hours in a thankless, difficult job for entry-level money the way it should be. There has also been talk of my daughter, Noelle, joining WWE as a backstage interviewer. I certainly hope that turns out to be the case, but as of now, as far as I know, it's just talk. End quote. Dewey Foley was infamously introduced to audiences in ECW back in 1995 when a fan had a sign in the ECW arena that read, Kane Dewey, referring to the Sandman's Singapore Cane at the time. Mick Foley as Cactus Jack cut a notable and historic promo based on that fan sign because Dewey at the time was only 3 years old. Ouch. And WWE hiring a new executive with a history in not one, not two, but 3 pro sports. That's right, WWE announcing the appointment of John Brody as Executive Vice President of Global Sales and Partnership on Monday. Brody previously held senior leadership roles with the NFL, worked in the Boston Celtics organization, and spent over 12 years working for Major League Baseball, including the last 7 as Senior Vice President of Corporate Sales and Marketing. Let's see if it can turn up the ratings, although hard to say whether or not that's the case. All right, we'll get back to a little more news and everything in a moment here. Let's go back to the phones. We've got Sean from Ben Salem on the line. Sean, welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Hey, how are you? You said my 3 favorite letters, ECW. It's a shame to hear about Hack Myers. That's amazing.
Yeah, 41. I mean, well, I guess, not that there's any positive of anybody passing away, especially so young, but at least it's not a drug overdose. It's not, a heart attack from steroids. I mean, this was complication from brain surgery.
Absolutely. But I'm saying he was in his 20s back then?
Yeah.
He didn't look 20, I'll tell you that much.
Well, I mean, that age will fool you quite a bit. I mean, to give you an example, I mentioned him earlier, Tim Good News Hughes. I mean, he's only in his 20s, but with that infamous mustache of his, it makes him look like he's well into his 30s. And then there's me, who, when I'm clean-shaven, even though I'm in my mid-30s, I'd like to think I at least look in my 20s, although some people may argue otherwise.
No, this just has not been a single thing that excites me as much as it did back then, especially the wrestling. Without ECW, I can't imagine looking at wrestling in the past, 30 years and saying there was a bright spot. For me, ECW was pretty much everything that came together in the culmination of being Philadelphia kind of thing and being the smartest fans around. Like you said, starting the chant with the Shah and stuff like that. It just really, and being able to meet the Hat guy now, he was a integral part of that fandom.
Yeah, front row for every show. He had that infamous look about him, that Hawaiian shirt and that hat. You knew ECW Hat guy. I just wish I was a little bit older to be able to enjoy things. I mean, maybe about 6 years older, so that way I could go and partake in things a little bit more. It's one thing to be able to do things when you're 21 as opposed to when you're 15. If Lucas were here, I'm sure he'd be able to account for that personally.
Well, that was my infamous quote from my nephew. He was about 12. He goes, "I know wrestling's fake, but ECW is real, right?" I'm like, "Oh, it is what you think it is."
And stick with that.
Such a fine spot in my heart for it. Just being part of it, and not being an integral part of it, but having it in my life.
A significant contribution. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thinking you're the smartest guy in town, kind of thing, and always ahead of the curve. And then they started wound up having they came in, the talent rated them, and you knew these guys all along were great, that kind of thing. And even the introduction of Lucha Libre type wrestling in Philadelphia.
You saw that with Mysterio, Psychosis, just to name a few.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when, Ray that went against the guardrail and the fans, because he jacked his knee up pretty good.
Yeah, for the first of many times, yes. That I don't know how many times that knee of his has gone under the knife, but he's still out there, bless him.
Yeah, absolutely. But it just comes to a point where the fans loved it so much, they would, say that with one of their heroes. So imagine if they didn't like it, kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd want to go into that environment today.
No, but it was before the internet really, exploded.
Oh, yeah. This is when you had AOL dial-up going on.
Yeah, absolutely. They knew how to use the microphone, and they knew how to tell a storyline, knew how to stick with a storyline. They knew exactly what to do next. The swerves were great. Even they would throw a match, and they'd just be the Broad Street Bully and what's his name, Alan. And you knew somebody's going to come in there and just break it up and throw him out of the ring and, say something on mic. You just knew it was coming. So Donnie Allen, that's who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
It just came to a point where you felt part of it, kind of thing. And I can't imagine being anywhere close to something that big, feeling a part of it.
Most certainly. I can't help but agree 100%. Anyway, thanks for a couple of minutes, Sean. I'm up against it here unless I get some permission to not be against it. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe I can get a couple of extra minutes if I don't know. We'll see. Since we have high school basketball coming up at 1:15, I don't know. Maybe if Ted doesn't want to play a couple of songs, well, all right. Well, he'll be hearing me on the delay, and he'll kind of either look up and go, "What, are you crazy? Are you out of your bleeping mind?" Or he'll go, "Yeah, what the hell? Why not?" One of the hey, okay, he's shrugging his shoulders and saying, what the hell? Why not? Woohoo! Brucey bonus. All right. Thanks so much for the call, Sean. I appreciate it. Whatever you want, Ted comes into the studio and says here.
That's right. Whatever you want. If you want.
Except a raise. That I can't get.
I can't help you with that. I stand in line.
Yeah, I know. There's a very long line for that. No, not too long, otherwise I'll be out of that line real quick.
That's right. But I mean,
I'll get the Vince treatment. You're fired.
It's up to you. Whatever.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, we'll take the top of the hour and we'll go a little bit longer here. I know we'll be hearing from Chris Irmer to do a check. Maybe at that point we'll hit the news and then come back into it and kind of figure out. Just because I guess with a week off, there's so much that's happening now, and there's no way I'm going to be able to squeeze it in the next 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah, so you
insert your own Rob Van Dam joke here.
Whatever you decide.
There we go. That is appreciated. That is team playership right there. You know, you give a little, you take a little. I know the last few weeks they have preemptions and shortened shows, but it's a give and take. That's what's great about things here at WBCB. Anyway, before the hour's over, I've got to mention our friends over at George's Cards and Collectibles, your place for sports and wrestling memorabilia, as well as legendary sports figure appearances. For example, former WWE and TNA superstar Billy Gunn will be at George's in the Neshaminy Mall 1 week from tomorrow. That's right, Sunday, December 20th, from noon until 2 p.m. Now, the holidays are right around the corner, and you can get your sports collectibles at any of George's 3 locations, including their original store at 7755 New Falls Road in Fairless Hills, on the lower level of the Oxford Valley Mall next to the Sears Court, and in the Neshaminy Mall in the AMC Theater Wing. Plus, for the holiday season, there's a 4th store open in the Willow Grove Park Mall on the 3rd level between Sears and the food court. For more info on upcoming signings, including Billy Gunn a week from tomorrow, as well as collectibles and more, give George's a call at 215-943-2475 or go to georgescollectibles.com. Holy smokes. What else to talk about? WWE announcing on Friday that the network will launch in Japan on January 5th of 2016. WWE Chief Strategy and Financial Officer George Barrios saying in a press release that Japan is strategically important for WWE, given our passionate and engaged fan base in the market. The global expansion of WWE Network is critical to the continued growth of our brand internationally. The monthly price, at the moment, it's 1,208 yen, which translates to, you guessed it, $9.99 U.S. currency. That's been a long-running plug of theirs, is you can get the WWE Network for just $9.99 a month. So apparently that's translated to other countries throughout the world, regardless. Also, Daniel Bryan speaking with the New Paper Online and saying that his head trauma-related injury could end his WWE career. but he doesn't feel that it will be the end of his career in wrestling. He could find another passion. It would just be sad because it's what he's been most passionate about since 5 years old. Bryan dealing with a litany of neck injuries and concussion issues since becoming WWE World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleMania 30 about a year and a half ago. Speaking of injuries, Sting was a guest on Ric Flair's podcast and talked about his neck injury suffered at Night of Champions, saying that he is going to have surgery. He hopes that it isn't fusion surgery and that he's got what's called cervical spinal stenosis, which is the same injury that shortened the careers of Steve Austin and Edge, just to name a couple. He goes more into that, but running short on time. Also, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed off last week on spending $2.7 million from the state's Event Trust Fund to bring WrestleMania 32 to the city of Arlington, according to the Texas Tribune. The purpose of the fund is listed in the story as defraying the costs of some large events by paying state taxes collected during the events, such as those levied on hotel reservations and car rentals, back to event organizers. Your tax dollars at work, folks. On the bright side, the money will probably go back into the region as it did for WrestleMania 31 this year in the Santa Clara, San Jose region, as WrestleMania generated $139 million in economic impact for the area.
Wow.
Yeah, that they call it the Super Bowl of wrestling for a reason. Now, something that's a bit of a different force, Jeff Jarrett's Global Force Wrestling. He'll be heading to the Northeast for a pair of events in January, starting Friday, January 22nd at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie, New York, along with a co-promotion the following night, January 23rd, between GFW and Pro Wrestling Syndicate from the Rahway Rec Center, which I've had a chance to check out in person, although it's been a while since I've been up there, too. All right. Now, I guess since we're closing up right on the top of the hour, I should say that you're listening to 1490 WBCB, Levittown, Fairless Hills, Trenton, to get the appropriate legals out of the way. Exactly. And a little bit of bonus time here for Pro Wrestling Weekly. Not something that we often hear, but I've got enough time, probably another, I'd say, 5 minutes or so to get into the lineup for TLC for tomorrow night, the pay-per-view, and predictions certain to go wrong from both myself and Lucas, who sent them in via text 1 minute before I hopped on the air here in typical Lucas fashion. Okay, maybe not typical.
He doesn't want you to copy off him. That's
that's probably what it is. He was just like, all right, I don't want you stealing my ideas, so I'm going to give them to you at the absolute last minute.
You're shallow, you know that?
Method to his madness.
Yes, there is.
I already know this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Figured him out.
You've seen him only a couple of times,
right.
But his appearances have been sporadic as of late due to a litany of factors. But that is rather interesting to say the least. All righty, so just announced this past Thursday on SmackDown, Rusev taking on Ryback in singles action. I've got Ryback winning that one, and Lucas is picking Rusev. See that? Already things are a little bit different here. The Intercontinental title on the line in a singles match. Kevin Owens defending against Dean Ambrose. Lucas is picking Ambrose to win. I'm saying that Owens retains, which I know is kind of a cheap way of saying Ambrose could win by count out or disqualification or something like that. The Divas title on the line, Charlotte against Paige. I'm saying Charlotte retains, and Lucas is picking Paige to win. Interesting. We're already differing quite a bit. Alberto Del Rio against Jack Swagger for the U.S. title in a chairs match. Well, I'm going with Swagger to win the match. Whether he wins the title, hard to say. Lucas is picking Del Rio for that one. Also, the tag titles. A triple threat ladder match for the tag titles. The New Day defending against the Usos and the Lucha Dragons. I'm picking New Day to win that one, and so too is Lucas on that. Then you've got an 8-man elimination tag team tables match. That's quite a mouthful as well, as you've got Team Extreme, the Dudleys, Tommy Dreamer, and Rhino taking on all 4 members of the Wyatt family, Eric Rowan, Luke Harper, Braun Strowman, and Bray Wyatt. I'm going with the Wyatts on that, as is Lucas. And finally, the TLC match, tables, ladders, and chairs for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Sheamus against Roman Reigns. Both of us are picking Sheamus to win that one. All right, I've only got maybe about a minute here. We've got one last call that came in. Frank from Trenton. Frank, welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Good afternoon, Fearon. As always, great to be on.
Good to have you on. What's on your mind, real quick here? Because I'm already in bonus time here. It's like the World Cup. I've got the extra time going on.
But, I was wondering, what do you got predictions for the Royal Rumble border? I would say.
I was gonna say I can't even begin to think of the Royal Rumble until after the pay-per-view, or after TLC. That is. I mean, plus there are quite a few weeks between now and the Royal Rumble. There's usually that lengthier gap of about 5 or 6 weeks between the December and January pay-per-views. So there's a lot of time to put things together. I mean, who could be in the Rumble could be determined in part by who wins the title matches tomorrow night. So, there are too many factors to begin looking at things with the Royal Rumble this early on. I mean, who a potential favorite could be. There are so many factors, and that's something that probably I won't even begin to speculate on until after the new year.
All right, I'll talk to you next time, okay?
All right, sounds good, Frank. Appreciate the phone call, as always. Now, all right. I've got just enough time for this as I know we're about 5 minutes beyond when I usually do it, but why not? It's time, of course, for
Birthdays, you jerk.
Thank you for that, Lucas. 6 of them on tap today. Holy smokes. Well, I usually.
It was a popular day.
I know, as I was saying. I mean, Valentine. I made that whole allusion earlier. But we'll start off, I usually go from oldest to newest, but that doesn't mean that oldest is worst. On this date in 1923, Robert William Barker was born. You know who this is. The 2009 Monday Night Raw guest host and television legend emceeing game show The Price is Right for 35 years, known as Bob Barker, turns 92 today.
Wow.
Yeah, still alive, and even as recently as earlier this year, did a guest hosting spot on The Price is Right for a special April Fool's episode, where Drew Carey, the host, was introduced, and all of a sudden out-walked 91-year-old Bob Barker to a huge pop from the game show audience. And he ran the first pricing game and contestants row just as he had done for all those years. At 91, to still be that sharp, God bless him.
Yeah.
And I would imagine he's still as sharp now, turning 92.
That's right.
As that was only a few months ago. On this date in 1934, Guadalupe Robledo was born.
Now,
Even I'd be going, who's that? The former Mexican professional wrestler and manager of Shawn Michaels, known as Jose Lothario. Fans would remember him from the 96-97 area. Jose Lothario turns 81 today. Yeah, he's still with us.
Yeah, cool.
On this date in 1952, Gary Michael Capetto was born. The longtime wrestling announcer for the WWF, AWA, and WCW turns 63 today. On this date in 1963, Ronald Jason Knight was born. The former ECW television champion known as Jason, the Sexiest Man on Earth, turns 52 today. I've seen him in person. I don't know if he's necessarily that sexy,
he's
but that's
52
just
now. So.
Well, yeah, true. I don't know. You know what? I'm not going to tell that story over the air. His recent Monster Factory appearance. I'll just leave it at that. I may have brought it up on the show before, but that's another story for another time. On this date in 1964, Terry Michael Brunk was born. The former two-time ECW World Heavyweight Champion and 2009 Hardcore Hall of Famer known as Sabu turns 51 today. Really great guy, too. Huge Green Bay Packers fan.
Really?
Little behind-the-scenes knowledge you wouldn't otherwise know, as he rarely ever talked on camera.
Right.
But I had the chance to talk to him at George's. And finally, on this date in 1966, Yoshihiro Asai was born.
Who?
The former two-time WCW Cruiserweight Champion, two-time WCW Television Champion, and former, easy for me to say, New Japan J-Crown Octuple Unified Champion, known as Ultimo Dragon, turns 49 today. And he is also the, innovator of a move that is named after his last name, the Asai Moonsault, which is essentially a backflip onto an opponent from the second ring rope to the outside of the ring.
Wow.
Yeah, one of the high-flying things from the lucha libre Mexican style, as well as the puroresu, the Japanese style of professional wrestling.
Anybody who says that if there's no athleticism in this sport, there is a perfect example.
No, exactly. Yeah, being able to innovate that. And the J-Crown Octuple Unified Championship, that was 8 different title belts that were unified into one championship for New Japan Pro Wrestling back in, I want to say 94, 95, somewhere in there. So think about that. 8 different title belts.
Yeah.
The picture of him wearing them is rather interesting, to say the least.
Well, it's a good bookend because you started off when I came in here talking about the $9.99 special in Japan, and you ended up with...
And we're right back in Japan with the Ultimo Dragon, Yoshihiro Asai, celebrating his 49. You would think there is, but I have no clue what the hell it is, honestly. All right, so we've had a little bit of bonus time here, and it's greatly appreciated. Ted, what do you think? I'll hit another ID just for funs and giggles, and hit the news, and
Sure.
Right after that, we'll probably have time for a song, and then we'll make our way over to high school basketball, courtesy of the philosopher Chris Ermer, full of glory and renown.
There you go.
All righty. Ted, thank you so much. Thank you all out there for listening. Next week will be a holiday bonanza, as who knows what kind of Christmas funsies we'll come up with. And I believe Lucas will be back in studio for the first time in like 7 weeks, so who knows what kind of hijinks he'll bring to the table. Well, yeah, you do. He's been with the show for the better part of, 2 years and change now? 2 years and 3-4 months, something like that? I don't know. Enjoy all the fun and festivities. Ted Efaw will briefly be next, and if not, we'll get to the country roads with him.
Right after the game.
Right after the game. This is, you know what? We'll let Merrill tell you. Actually, no, we won't, because we got to let. How can I forget Nutsy?
That's it. Where's Nutsy?
You know what? He's not used to. He doesn't get paid overtime. I think that's what it is.
Wandering away and went, whoa, wait.
Yeah, we're about 10 minutes. Yeah, exactly. He's thinking, all must not be well. It's after 1 o'clock. All right, Nutsy, play us out.
1 o'clock and all's well.
Serving you better than ever before. This is 1490 WA.